What's poppin', man? It's Audio Al, and you're listening to Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix, right here on YouTube, Spotify, or any of your favorite streaming apps.
It is Tuesday, January 9th, 2024. This is podcast number, what the fuck podcast number is it? 180, 5 p.m. sharp. We're going early tonight. But before we get to the show, Josh, let's hear from our main man, Walters.
Welcome to the Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix with your lovely hostesses, Garlic Johnson.
We're going to need to take a break here while I change my pants.
And Josh Mitchell.
Sitting here undefeated in everything I do, except fantasy football. No, I'm not allowed to handle crayons.
Not after last time.
Not after last time.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, Garlic and Josh.
Thank you, Walters. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix podcast. I am one of those lovely hostesses, the Garlic Johnson. We are joined, as always, by our other lovely hostess, the Joshua Mitchell. Josh, say hi to the folks out there.
Hi, folks. Does anyone else feel like we should be on PBS Kids or something after Walters' introduction there with that music?
Just a little Raj town for the Raj?
Yeah.
Maybe. It's Josh, thanks to viewers like you, we can do anything we want, okay? We can be anyone.
Show ever.
We can be anywhere. All right. But yeah, we appreciate the people listening. This is the Hood Pod. Segment start times down in the description below. We appreciate people who chat along in Discord. Al's in there. He was talking today. Walters was as well. So we appreciate you boys. I think I could talk about that later. But yeah, we appreciate people who chat along. Segment start times, description, I already said that. Thank you at Levi Oki Illustration, who has provided another beautiful art piece. We've already showed it off from last week's episode, but Carl Bear does amazing work, and he's worth every penny you spend on it. So shout out Carl Bear for producing beautiful art for us every single year. Josh, hi there.
I'm still alive. Neener, neener, neener.
The vid or the flu or I forget the official name of the cold. None of them got you?
Nope, none of them got me. Living on my own hasn't gotten me yet. Got a couple more days left of that, but so far, so good. I do still have a half a box of pancakes. After tonight, I might have 0 box pancakes, but that's okay because I don't think I need to necessarily prepare dinners for the rest of the week because Wednesday, I'm in the office, so on the way home, I'll probably grab some Colvies before going to church, I should say. And then Thursday, I'm in the office as well because that's just how the cookie crumbles, and I might stop at Chipotle or something. I don't know. But yeah, my days of scrounging for food are over after having cheese and crackers for lunch today. I don't know where the crackers came from. I found them on the ground. But the cheese was bought when I went to Target earlier in the week. So I know that is fresh off the cow's flank or wherever they make cheese from.
What's your go-to Culver's order?
Well, I've only been there like twice in the last 75 years, but we went a couple weeks ago with Asher and Nikita, and I got the spicy. It's like a jalapeno burger. And that's kind of my go-to.
What about Chipotle? What's your order these days?
It's a bowl with brown rice, black beans, steak, pico or not pico, a little bit of hot sour cream, cheese, corn, veggies, maybe guac on the side if I'm feeling spicy. Chips, and I use the chips to dunk and eat that way.
Wow, Josh, you are a visionary. So living alone for being an eligible, not an eligible bachelor, but being a bachelor living for the past couple of days. Has it been peaceful? Has it been nice? Has it been bad? I mean, obviously you're missing the wife and kid. I'm not implying that you're not, but what's your emotional state like? Because I can't remember the last time you and Nikita have been separated that long. Maybe it's every year. I don't know, but
no, it's been a while. I mean, I think the only time that I haven't never been on my own this long since being married, I guess, that I remember at least. Maybe a couple days, but not a full week. And because the only other time is when I went down to Nebraska for a 4-day span, but I had Asher with at that time, so it's not like I was irresponsible. But
No more
I don't know.
irresponsible than usual, of course.
Yeah, it's just like, I'm still hanging on, I guess.
Well, sweet. I was just curious how you're doing, because obviously you've been much more active in the group chats and such. I'm like, well, Josh clearly has more free time, and/or Nikita has less free time to. I don't know how it used to be, but I remember the Josh who used to call me every day on his way home from work, or the texts were fluid and were frequent and were often. So I don't know what that is like for you now that Nikita's away, but it doesn't matter. I was just curious. Are we ready to move on, Josh?
Yeah, I'm ready. Yeah, we're 11 minutes in, and it's
we are at 5 minutes. I was running late. That's on me, but we're only 6 minutes into recording. Please.
Yeah. So we'll jump right into the grain of salt weekly/season recap. I do want to do the FanDuel top 3 for this week, and then we can do the season-long studs.
Yeah, so the FanDuel top 3 this week, there's only 7 participants. People were limping over that finish line. Levi Oki, our own at Levi Oki Illustration that we talk about every week, he had the top score with 132.86. Cody, he put up a 128.34 coming in second, and then Garbanzo's best bean, he put up a 103.24. Unfortunately for Levi, it did not make any sort of difference. The top 3 leaderboard stayed the same after the Week 18 contest. We'll go in reverse order here. Coming in third place, getting their money back, just $10 dues. Garbanzo Bestbean. He had a top 5 scores combined of 685.72. He's in third. He'll be getting his $10 back. In second place is the hostess with the mostest. Here's truly Garlic Johnson. He had 691.54 for his combined top 5 scores. I'm getting $30 reduce. All profit, baby, all profit. And then TW Cody, Carmel's alternate account. I'm not even sure to this day if it's a real person, but it is what it is. They bested all of us with 706.12 combined in their best 5 scores. They take home $90. It was a smaller prize pool this week. Or not this week, but this year we didn't. We kind of limped into getting people to participate because I've been getting a little bit burnt out of all the commissioning things I do. So I didn't put as much effort into filling the league this year. But I mean, hey, had 14 players for $130 in cash prizes. Not too bad. Josh, I think you were in fourth. I think you were just 10 points behind Garbanzo's best bean. Did you think you were going to be able to get across the finish line there in Week 18 and sneak in, or was 10 points a little bit high to go over your lowest score?
I think it would have been tough because I think my lowest score was 130. So I would have needed to have a pretty solid week. But I wasn't expecting a whole lot. I think I had a lot of dart throws in my lineup this week.
Sure, swinging for the fences. I respect it. Obviously, I didn't put in the lineup because I didn't want to embarrass Cody, but I would have creamed him. I would have got another 160 bomber, 150 bomber, whatever my top score was, and I just wanted to let him win because I felt bad. But it is what it is. Josh, do you think you want to do the pod play along next year? Do you think we've played it out? We've done it, I don't know, 4 or 5 years now. 3 years, maybe. Who's to say?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's up in the air. I think that if we do it, I would want to try and get it more full, I guess. But that's just me.
Sure.
Yeah, but no, I enjoy it.
Okay. We'll see. Shall we move on, Josh? You said you wanted to get into some studs and some duds.
Yeah, because going back to what I'd said for what I had for lunch, it's not holding me over, so I'm hungry.
Poor Josh.
But yeah, season-long studs and duds, Gar. We picked some players preseason after drafts, I believe, but before the season actually began, and we shared them with the folks. If you listen to some of us, you probably did well. If you listened to others of us, you probably did not do well. If you listen to Gar, you most likely were like, well, I never picked these players to begin with. And
it's true.
And so it's one of those things like, okay, we have some numbers to share. Gar, how'd you do in the studs category?
Well, Josh, The most serious pick, I guess, would have been Sam Howell. He was my stud quarterback. He was projected 258. He actually put up 297. He is that gunslinger type. Some interceptions and such kept him down, but ultimately I knew this guy would sling it. He was there all, I believe he didn't even start every game. I think he's either benched or he missed a couple games or whatever. But per our rules, he outscored his projection by 40 points, so not quite studly, but I think the quarterback position is the hardest to pick a stud or a stud, just because I already get so many points the way it is, the top scoring fantasy position. So I don't regret it, but it is what it is with Sam Howell.
Yeah, I had Desmond Ridder, who was projected 198, very low number. He barely surpassed that with 205.5 after being replaced. With quarterbacks, it's like you pick a starting quarterback in the league. That's, not, in a top 10. That's fine. That's not kind of just tossing it out. If you were to go out there and pick Mason Rudolph, then you're just kind of like praying for an injury. And so Desmond Ridder, he's not like a player. I'm guessing he would have been a waiver wire player all year for most leagues. But he did technically outscore his projection by 7.5.
Gotcha. Yeah. So pretty flat, all things considered, but technically a stud. Moving on.
Now we get into your real picks.
Yeah. This is where I was trying really hard. No, I think Al brought it up, and we didn't do anything to fix it because I didn't care enough at the beginning of the season to be like, let's go back and let's redo it. But Al brought it up. I think Al brought it up first after we recorded the pod, and maybe you had brought it up too. I'm not trying to discredit you, but I maybe gamified this a little bit too hard by picking players that were the absolute bottom of the barrel. In retrospect, obviously, none of these, actually, I do have Trey Palmer on my fantasy teams, I believe, but it doesn't matter.
Dynasty or?
Yeah, sorry, that's what I meant, Dynasty. So I was picking players that had the lowest projected scores. They were never going to do anything next year. I got to get back to, maybe we put some sort of projected minimum on there, projected a minimum of, 75, 100 points or something. So we're actually picking players, unless we are for super serial about it. But yeah, I picked a fullback for Miami Dolphins is what I'm trying to say. Alec Ingold, he was projected 38.6. He put up 24.9. He wasn't even a stud. How embarrassing. Yeah. What was your stud running back?
So when we look at the running backs and wide receivers, I think those are the ones with the most kind of say in this, that Al was referring to as far as really scraping the bottom of the barrel or, pushing the limit on that. I feel comfortable with my two picks for studs as rosterable players in the beginning of the season.
I was speaking mostly about me. I wasn't trying to throw shade.
Yeah, but I think that he, it's kind of directing it at both of us. But Tyjae Spears was only projected 72.2. He finished with 153.8, more than double his projection with a positive 81.6. He was somebody that I had rostered in multiple leagues and actually played in a couple weeks as well. But yeah, so he was a stud. He was the biggest stud of our picks for this segment.
Yeah, it wasn't even close. I had Trey Palmer. And to be fair, Trey Palmer did do more than I think most people would have thought. He was a rookie wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He was projected 60.9, aka 61. He put up almost 96 fantasy points in the year. Obviously, it's going to be tough when you're behind Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. But he actually got in the end zone a couple times. I think if either of those players leaves, I think this guy is a player to watch. That's why I have him either rostered or taxi squad or whatever in the dynasty leagues that I could. So I think that's a legitimate pick, but not this year, unfortunately. So technically a stud of 35, but he definitely didn't win any championships.
So then the skill player with the most projected points on our stud side is Kadarius Toney. He was my stud of the season, which was just the biggest swing and miss. Probably the writing was on the wall after week one with all his drops, but he finished with 53 points. He did not hit his projection. He was 60 points short. I believe the biggest negative in our segment for both studs and duds as well. And just an all-around disappointment but then again, so the entire Chiefs team kind of was a disappointment when you're looking at skill players other than Isaiah Pacheco. Even Travis Kelce was considered a disappointment by his standards. Mahomes was a disappointment. Really nobody other than Isaiah Pacheco was solid for them as far as
Rashee
fantasy
Rice.
value. Oh, Rashid Rice. Yeah, that's right. He turned it on at the end of the year. That's my bad. But yeah, so Tony was not a stud. He was a dud.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. And I think that you see a team that had so much potential and he just couldn't put it together. And then I guess I'll go, I'll do my studs, and then I'll make a little statement, I guess, after we talk about our stud tight ends. But I picked Cole Turner. This one was, I legitimately thought there was potential here. At least I was hyping myself up in the preseason because I was, I wasn't taking tight ends high in every league. So if I didn't get Laporta, this is a guy I was looking at because Logan Thomas gets hurt almost every year. And there's definitely some preseason talk about Sam Howell and Cole Turner having a good preseason connection. So I was like, this guy's, in that Eric Bieniemy offense, could this be Travis Kelce light or diet Travis Kelce? Not even close. He was projected 17 fantasy points, and that's just as well because he scored 23 fantasy points all year. Logan Thomas was healthy, I think, all year or most of the year, so that is part of it. But yeah, this guy was never on the field. If you look at, now I'll talk about it in a second. Who's your stud tight end, Josh?
Well, I had Darnell Washington, who was projected 18.8. He was not a stud. He scored 13.1. I think he was a third-round draft pick. They had him as a first-round talent. He wasn't the pass-catching tight end, but he was 6'7" and like just 900 pounds of muscle. They talked him up on the McAfee show, which is probably why I got hyped into it. But I wasn't going to roster him in anything unless it was just a very deep dive. So this is my kind of try harder pick. And I failed miserably on it anyways.
Yeah. So overall in the studs, I technically had a differential of 66 to your only 22.7. You had the biggest boom, but the biggest bust as well. And I played it extremely safe, which is what it is. And it sucks too, because not to sit here and unnecessarily hate on ourselves. This is a kind of a one-off bit we do at this point in the year, or we do in the preseason, then revisit after the season. But like, if you look at the players I was drafting, like I had Sam Laporta wherever I could get him if I didn't take an early tight end. He was a stud. Raheem Mostert, David Montgomery, those guys were studs. Zay Flowers, Tank Dell, those guys were studs for me. So it's like, if you would look at my actual teams, like I had a decent pulse of who could have been studs this year, but I just over gamified it for this thing, and it's dumb, and it doesn't really matter. But I definitely took Al's point to heart. It's like this bit was kind of useless as we were doing it in the preseason, at least from my perspective. So
yeah, we should be talking like starting roster players in next year,
right? All right, Josh, we'll go reverse here. Who's your quarterback dud?
Well, I had Kyler Murray, who his projection, I believe, was based off of his return from IR. And so he was projected 200.48. He finished the season with 164.35, netting me a difference of 36. So technically a dud, but he did have a very solid, I believe, last 3 weeks of the season.
Yeah, I thought that one was going to hit way harder for you. I think I was saying preseason Kyler Murray's not even going to come back, dude. Like the team's going to suck early, and they'll just keep Murray off the field, which they didn't. Their team still wasn't very good. I think they still got draft pick 3, 4, 6, something like that. Who knows? But Josh Dobbs won him a couple unlikely games, and then Kyler Murray came back. So I thought you would have netted 200 points there, but still technically a dud for you. I had Justin Fields. Just because I didn't believe in the Bears organization as is at all. He did turn it on some weeks. He definitely turned it off some weeks, and he missed, 4 weeks for a thumb injury. He was projected 340. He put up 256, so that netted me about 85 points. So I was a bit ashamed of my stud picks. I'm not ashamed of my dud picks. I pretty much nailed them, so I feel pretty good about them as we continue. But Josh, who was your dud RB?
My dud RB was Saquon Barkley. He was projected 254. He finished with 223 for a net of 30.7 points, I guess, technically. So he was technically a dud. I don't know if you noticed, but there are some shaded boxes. Those are players that ended up on IR at some point in the season and so their projection is if they were to have played the regular season or the full season as opposed to what they actually played.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think at a certain point, at least for me, I factor in injuries. I'm like, this guy's going to get banged up. He'll be a dud. Because you don't want, if you think someone's injury prone, if you think someone's going to get banged up, you're less likely to draft them in fantasy, right? That should ding their value to you. So yeah. I appreciate you pointing it out. But
yeah, I think that Cup's number changed after our show just because he was declared IR right after the preseason ended and after this show, I guess.
Yeah,
so
after the show, but before the fantasy season started. Right. No, I hear that though, because I mean, people were drafting Cup though. Like I think Brian took Cup in our first round.
Brian took him in the first round. So yeah, he was a first round pick, but yeah, never, not necessarily anybody I would have drafted just because of that questionable tag on him.
Right. But yeah, so my dud wide receiver was Cup. He put up, he was projected 285, assuming he played the whole year. He did not, to Josh's point. He ended up putting up 165-ish. So he was, he had a productive, he probably had a good, what would you say, points per game. I will say Cup's had a good points per game. Just didn't play the whole year, and injuries are a factor in fantasy big league. He was my biggest differential the whole game. He netted me a differential of 120.4 fantasy points, so feeling pretty good.
I had Stephon Diggs as my wide receiver dud. He was projected 264.3. He had 273.8 so he wasn't a dud. He was minus 9.5. He almost, he's pretty close to his projection overall. And so not necessarily a stud, but not necessarily a dud either. He was just kind of right around where you'd expect him to be.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny too because so many people were dog walking Diggs for the, how he kind of disappeared later in the season. So to think if he would have stayed at his productivity the whole season, he would have blown that out of the water. So it's almost kind of crazy, honestly, when I think about it. And also, it's interesting to me because I think, when I think of Josh, I think of you always having your pulse on the receivers, and obviously you did well in fantasy this year. So this isn't a reflection of you in total, but just that both your wide receiver picks you were wrong about in this game, which I think is interesting because I think of all the positions you would have done the best at that one, but it is what it is.
Yeah, they were, like as the Tony one was a huge swing and miss. That was supposed to be like the boomer bust. That was the boomer bust, and he definitely busted. Diggs was one just based off of the offseason because I know that there was a lot of speculation about him not even wanting to be there. So next year I'll have to sit down and go in my dark room and think about it for 3 days.
There you go. Moving on, my dud tight end was Kyle Pitts. That one was a bit of a low-hanging fruit, and he probably outperformed, some people's expectations for him. And now that Arthur Smith is gone, we'll see what they can do. But he was projected 160. He put up 137, netted me 23 points in this game technically. So my worst position of the whole game.
Yeah, and going back to Stephon Diggs with his wide receivers and why people are down on him, it's because after the Week 13 bye, he had 4, 8, 6, and 5 points, and then Week 18 he had 14. So when it doesn't matter, that's why he outscored his projection. My tight end dud Waller, he was projected 186.1. There was a lot of preseason hype around him, making him a high draft pick in a lot of leagues. He did get hurt, and he finished with a 113.2, netting a 72.9 point difference. And so yeah, he's one that I think it's been talked about in the Deflate These Balls League. Waller's been tossed around quite a bit, and he was supposed to be the best asset in the trade, and he's not. And it's just, he's one of those guys where he can't seem to get it together after he had that one really solid year.
Yeah, it's a kind of a shame too because he's a good guy, good story, but just has fallen apart after that Cinderella season. Overall, Josh, again, I won't even speak about it like I'm proud of it. Technically, in the game, I creamed you. Mostly because of my dud picks. I nailed my dud picks. I overall had a positive point differential with the stud versus dud factor of 383.2. I was heavily carried by my duds. My duds was over 320 or 315 of that. You had a total score of 153, and you were also carried by your duds. But I beat you by, did you do the math here? Yeah, I beat you by over 230 fantasy points because my duds are so much better than yours. But I'm not overly proud of this year. Maybe next year we make the rule, like you said, that these have to be players that are on our roster. Because I think you and I do this like as the last show before the season starts, like that last Tuesday is our fantasy season prediction. So we would have already done all our drafts. We're not giving away our secret sauce in draft season. So we'll have to make a new rule or something for next year.
Yep.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say about that?
Well, I did better than I did last year because last year I was negative 192 overall.
Well, you've made a huge improvement then, as far as that's concerned.
Moving on up
to the east side. All right, let's move on, Josh. We'll talk about the 272, and obviously we're not going to talk about it in great length, but we'll touch on the highlights and the lowlights of predicting every single every single game of the fantasy or of the NFL regular season. It's a labor of love we put in to both guess all the games before the season and then to compile the results. So we put more work into it than anything else, I think, in the show. So we might as well take a little bit of time to talk about it since I think it's a fun exercise, but also because we put so much effort into it. Josh, we'll start with you. How do you feel like you did this year in predicting? And you can start wherever you want. We don't have no structure here. Just whatever highlights or lowlights you appreciate about your own performance.
Well, the week-to-week one is always kind of like just a whatever. To me, I look more so whenever I do the week-to-week, I think about it as I go through, get the truthiness, the gut feeling. But I always look at the wins and losses at the end and go, is that realistic? Is that going to be realistic? And then if it's like, well, no, I don't think, in some cases, like, no, I don't think I guess I can't even think, like the Tampa Bay I should have gotten. I don't think they're only win 3 games. Look at their division. Look at but that's what I had them down as, and that was one of my worst misses. So I focus more so on the overall wins and losses as opposed to the weekly wins and losses. And so looking at that, I thought I did all right. I know I had 2 or 3 of the biggest like woofs, like biggest misses on them, because I see that you had the numbers over here for the overall differential count, and so I definitely had more in that upper number, but I nailed 9 teams in the NFL.
Yeah, and I think that's impressive because it's not like there was all the good teams or all the bad teams. There's a smattering of teams in here. Let's go over all 9, Josh. You got Buffalo, exactly right. You got Chicago, exactly right. You got Green Bay, exactly right. You got Jacksonville, exactly right. Miami, exactly right. Pittsburgh, exactly right. Seattle, exactly right. San Francisco, exactly right. And Washington, the Washington Commanders, exactly right. 9 teams. You nailed their exact win-loss record.
I think the funniest thing about one of them is Seattle for the week-to-week accuracy. I was less than 30% accurate.
Yeah,
so I got the record right, just not the games.
Yeah, and I'll definitely reinforce your point. Like we track the week-to-week accuracy just because it's interesting, and because when you're guessing every game, you're going week by week. So it'd be like, oh, this is a statistical anomaly. But also, one of the teams you nailed perfectly was your best team. So both your best team week-to-week and your worst team week-to-week, you got the record exactly right. Buffalo was your best team, and that was a team you also knew you gave them 11 wins. They got 11 wins, so that was your best week-to-week team. And Seattle was your worst, but you still got their record 9-8 exactly right. So. I mean, it's it's tough, but it's also interesting at the end of the day. Here, we'll go back and forth here. So I'll talk about mine for a bit, then we'll go back to you just in the division, because I think the divisional stuff is interesting as well. I did not have nearly as many perfect scores as Josh did. He had 9 teams exactly right. I only had 3. I had Denver exactly right at 8-9. I had Miami exactly right at 11-6. So I think we both got Miami exactly right. Is that correct? Yep. So we both knew what Miami was going to do good things. And then Washington, I think, is another team we both got right. We knew they were kind of a dumpster fire. Ron Rivera was a lame duck.
He's on his riverboat now.
Yeah, exactly. He can enjoy whatever river he wants with that boat. However, I did pretty well in the 1s and 2 games away. I had 9 teams where I was just 1 game off, and then 9 teams where I was just 2 games off. So overall, what is that, 21 teams within 2 games, but I did not nail it nearly as well as you did. I guess the only thing redeemable is I didn't have nearly... I shouldn't say nearly as many because I think you only had a couple more than I did, but I only had all my record guesses were within 5 games, and I only had 4 teams that were 5 apart. Houston, I think I was, looking back, I felt like I was pretty bullish on Houston. I was still 5 games off. They're obviously a playoff team, we know now. The Chargers, ravaged by injuries, ravaged by bad coaching, Brandon Staley gone, as well as Tom Telesco. The Giants, I mean, they were bad to start, and then Danny Dimes goes down. And then Vrabel in Tennessee, I was 5 games off on. I was pretty high on them. They obviously did not work out, and then Vrabel is fired. Maybe to go on to New England, who's to say? But so I had plenty of teams that were very close, but I didn't miss that hard when I missed for most of my teams, so I feel good about that. And then, week to week, my best team was Carolina. Which is just, I don't know, it just is what it is. And then my 2 worst teams were the Chargers and the Jets, which of course teams I thought were going to win a lot more than they did. But it's, something that is out of my control as well. Josh, looking more down at the division stats, which division was your best? Which division was your worst? Does anything surprise you there?
I always get confused on this. Which one is the one that I like? Am I looking for numbers that are higher?
So we're looking here. I've highlighted here. This is how much different you were from their overall record. So like Chicago was 0, you were 0 off. So that's good. You want lower numbers. Lower is better.
Oh yeah. So then,
lower is better in this first column at least, and then week to week is this column. You would want higher. So higher and lower.
So NFC North was the one that I overall got the closest. I was 5 games off. And then the NFC West, I was 7 games off. I had 2 teams where I nailed them both right on the money. I guess I didn't even look. AFC East, I got 6. That's another one that had 2 teams with right on the money. My worst division was the NFC East, mainly because I projected Big Mike to do Big Mike things, and he was one of the Dallas team had 6 more wins than I expected them to get. So it's a shame they can't win one in the playoffs, but they got one. They had a great regular season.
I mean, I feel like the last couple of years have been like, Josh, they're a double-digit team win every year. Like, you're dogging them a little bit too much. You're like, nah, Gar, I knew. But it's funny that Dallas continues to outperform. And then I think you were high on the Giants as well, weren't you?
I was.
Yeah.
I think I had them getting 10 wins.
Yeah. So that's interesting, though. I mean, NFC North being the closest on that makes sense. At least for overall, I think it looks like it was one of your worst teams week to week, but who cares about the week to week, honestly. Moving on to me, Josh, my best division. Oh, God, I was stuck looking at yours. My best division was actually the NFC West, surprisingly. I had no team where I was more than 2 off on. Didn't nail any teams, but Arizona, I was 1 game off. Seattle, I was 1 game off. San Fran was 1 game off. And the Rams, I was 2 games off. So overall, only 5 games off out of 17 times 4, whatever that is. I'm not doing the math right now. 68? I did the math, maybe. Anyways, so only 5 games off out of that is pretty good. And my worst division by far was the AFC South. I was 15 games off. Houston was the biggest swing. Indy, I think I projected worse than they were. And Tennessee, I was very disappointed in as well. NFC North came in at 6 games off. More off with Detroit and Minnesota. It is what it is. But Josh, it also looks like you predicted the playoff teams based on how you performed. Who'd you guess was going to be in the playoffs and who actually made it?
So I projected that the Cincinnati Bengals would be the first seed.
I mean, Joe Burrow was out. He was a shell of himself when he played, and then he was out. Yeah, it's not your fault.
Yeah. So I was going through AFC. I had Cincinnati, KC, Jets, Jacksonville, Buffalo, Miami, Baltimore. So I had 4 of the 7 teams right?
Yeah, looks like that.
Yep. I did not expect the entire AFC East, AFC North to make the playoffs.
That is the entire AFC North. So that'd be Baltimore, Cleveland, Cincinnati didn't make it, but you're close. 3 of the 4.
I was looking at the colors, and Miami and Cincinnati are the same color scheme on this. So
sure, okay, but no,
the letters are too hard.
Yeah. What about the NFC?
NFC, I had Philly, yay! San Fran, yay! Detroit, yeah! New Orleans, New York Giants, Minnesota, and Green Bay, yeah!
And you had them even in the right seed. You had them in the 7th seed. So look, you go.
Yeah.
Where's Green Bay going? Are they going into Dallas?
Yeah, they're going into Rodgers' house.
Well, I don't know if you want to call it that anymore, but yeah, I mean, so not bad, not terrible. It looks like you didn't make a Super Bowl prediction preseason, but who are you predicting now? We'll do that, and then I'll say mine, and we'll get out of here. We'll move on to the next thing.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and say that my Super Bowl victor is going to be the Green Bay Packers.
Shut the fuck up, Josh. And actually, if you follow the rule of Kirk Cousins, it can't be. No team who has ever lost to Kirk Cousins has gone on to win the Super Bowl. So that means San Francisco is already eliminated, and Green Bay is already eliminated, unfortunately.
Did Detroit?
No.
Oh, Detroit swept you guys, didn't they?
Yep.
Embarrassing. Okay. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think a Baltimore San Francisco rematch from a few years back. I guess
think the lights will go out again.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I hope that the lights do go out, or at least they make it a meme during the halftime show. But yeah, that would be a fun Super Bowl to watch. I guess at this point the Green Bay season is already a success in my eyes. This was supposed to be a rebuilding year, and it's become more of a reload than anything. So I'm excited. I get extra week of Green Bay football, extra week of stress. And then we'll see what goes from there.
All right, moving on to me. Looking at the playoffs here, I had KC the first seed. They're not, but they're the third seed. I had Cincinnati second. Like you said, I had Miami third. They did not win the division. Jacksonville fourth. Tennessee fifth. Jets sixth. And the Chargers seventh. I did very bad picking the AFC. I only got 2 of the 7 playoff teams, unfortunately. 3?
Oh, wait, I'm still on mine. Never mind.
Oh, Josh, please. Moving on to the NFC, I had San Francisco in the 1 seed. I nailed that perfectly. I think the only thing I nailed in all of the standings. I had Philly in the 2nd seed, which they're not. They made it in the 5th, though. Detroit, I had the 3rd seed. Nailed that one perfectly. Tampa, I had Tampa Bay winning the NFC, or I had New Orleans winning the NFC South, and Tampa Bay did. So I knew the NFC South would be in the 4th seed, but I had the wrong winner. Philadelphia in the 5th seed. I had both Dallas and Philly making it, but I had them swapped on who would be winning the division. I had the Giants and Minnesota. So it is what it is. 4 out of 7 on the NFC, which people said the NFC might have been harder to predict, but it is what it is. Or no, they would have said it would be easier to pick because they were top heavy. I got that backwards. But yeah, I had my Super Bowl prediction preseason being Miami, San Fran, with San Fran going over. Obviously, that's still possible, and I'm pulling for Miami. I'm pulling for Detroit, my bandwagonness, which, if I've been bandwagoner for 2 years, I don't know at which point do you go from bandwagon to regular fan, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Baltimore, like I think, Josh, you said in the chat before, Baltimore does appear to be a tier above everybody, but any given week, any given Sunday now, so parity is crazy. I'm still pulling for Miami, Detroit. That's not going to be the Super Bowl. Baltimore's the most likely winner of the Super Bowl, but KC and Philly look like absolute shells of themselves. The Rams are, I think, the darkest horse in this entire thing. And then, if Joe Flacco wins a game, I'm going to go crazy. So it is what it is.
Undefeated in Wild Card Weekend.
Undefeated, you can't make it up.
I'm pushing, like, if the Green Bay Packers don't make it to the Super Bowl or win it, I'm pushing for Cleveland, Detroit, the Battle of Lake Erie.
I'm down for that as well. Could be even Detroit Buffalo if you want. I believe, right? They're on, aren't they on Lake Erie?
I think so. But Cleveland and Detroit, just because
that'd be the memeiest. Yeah,
2 of like the worst markets for the NFL, as far as like just overall like promotion. So sure. If it gets down to the conference championship games, and it looks like Cleveland and Detroit, there's going to be some Buffalo Wild Wings sprinklers going on.
There's going to be some heavy ref ball for sure. Oh, shit. Well, I appreciate, Josh, you putting in the effort to do this every year. I know it's an exercise I enjoy, and maybe this podcast isn't for everyone else, but I think it's fun, at least for you and I, to sit here and look about how we did. And also for the couple people who will listen to be like, hey, these guys aren't so bad. They know a thing or two about a thing or two. Because I think we would have... Well, we didn't do the overall percentage. What's 70 divided by 272? Oh, fuck. That's not right. Or no, that would be the opposite of that. It doesn't matter. We got, you got 200 some games right. I got 200 some games right. So it is what it is. We'll move on, Josh. We'll very quickly just go over the survey result. It doesn't have to be anything special. And then we'll just talk about any ideas we might have for next year, because I think it's good to capture them right now. Looking at the survey results, Josh, I mean, I'll just briefly blow through the results, and you can stop me if there's something you want to talk about. But 78% of the people had fun this year. The other ones were indifferent. That's a question. I think I always say that's my most important. I feel that's my most important job as the commish, is to make sure people are having fun, enjoying themselves. It's unfortunate you can't get 100% there, but I understand it's very hard to, even if it was just a 12-man and now there's a 14 person, it's hard to have everyone enjoy themselves every year. And some people might just be indifferent because they had a very bad season. So it is what it is. Looking at some of the feedback there, some people are saying they think 14 people is too many. Multiple people are saying go back down to 12 teams. Well, I mean, I don't, how? Unless 2 people quit, we're unfortunately stuck the way it is. So yeah. It is what it is, but the great majority of the league had fun. I think it's my favorite stat of the year, every year, when people actually have fun. So, Moving on, Josh, I asked again about the consolation prizes. This one's a little bit more of a lukewarm thing, but only a couple people hate it. We have the consolation prizes, including the extra ping pong balls, the $25 for the extra bracket, the 2 extra ping pong balls, or 3 or whatever it is for the winner's consolation bracket, the dumpster fire medallion. Trying to keep people involved throughout the season. Over half the league says they like it. A quarter of the league is indifferent, and it looks like only 2 people said they don't like having to participate throughout the playoffs. So it is what it is. But yeah, so I appreciate people saying they'd like to keep playing through the end of the year. They don't just want to quit if they miss the playoffs, specifically if they lose in the first round. Fresh out of the season, are there any rules you'd like to see added or changed? I think the 2 that came out twice is that people want to get rid of the against the median thing, which I guess we can bring up. I think we've done it for 2 seasons now. Josh, I know you had originally pushed for it hard. I guess I don't give away who answered what here. Do you still like the against the median, or are you starting to wane on it now that you do it in multiple leagues? I know I like to have variety in my leagues, but you still like the game against the median, or has your opinion changed after having lived through it for a couple seasons now?
I still like it, especially in a 14-team league. I could see where, like, in a smaller league, it wouldn't make any sense, just because it's, then it's a little bit different. But with like a 14-team league, if we keep it that way, I'd say keep it. I do think that maybe changing some things around. So I suggested, one of mine is on this list, of course, no defense position, 0.5 PPR. So lowering that PPR piece, because that kind of, when we switched to PPR, we had, it was kind of an even split of like running backs, wide receivers having value. Now the wide receivers value is so high because of the amount of passing plays that are done. That's like running backs like CMC are literally cheat codes when it comes to fantasy. And then wide receiver wise, guys like, CeeDee Lamb had an amazing season with his receptions. And so a 0.5 PPR, while it would not eliminate the value of a PPR league, it would kind of bring things back down to a reasonable level. Because I'm trying to think, who's the there's a running back, I can't remember. It's Breece Hall. Breece Hall gets like 14 receptions a game, and it's like that's just 14 points right there. Yep. And so it's like so maybe a full point isn't the thing. I don't think ESPN does tiered. Otherwise, that would kind of be the best kind of alternate. But until then, I would say that 0.5 PPR, maybe a 1 point tight end premium is kind of the route to go.
Sure, yeah, I'd be down for something like that. I think, yeah, if ESPN did tier better, I would definitely advocate for that. I'll have to check into the things in the offseason. If they did like points per first down, I think maybe I'd advocate for a half point PPR, half point per first down, or something like that, just to keep it spicy. But that's negotiable. It's just something that comes to mind. Because I appreciate when we do points per first down in the Champions League. But that's not something you can really work into your rankings either. So some people might not like it.
Don't be like the guy I saw on Reddit a couple years ago who accidentally changed the league setting to instead of 0.5 PPR, he changed it to 0.5 PPRA, 0.5 points per rush attempt.
Oh, jeez. Running backs were heavy that season. Moving on, just like I asked if there's any final questions or any final suggestions. I don't think there's anything too serious in here, except for, I think this was Brian. I'm not ashamed to call him out, because I admit I was slacking. But if I'm going to do side bets, make sure that people know. I admit I was slacking on side bets hard. I did last year as well. I think I brought up the idea multiple times, like, hey, if someone wants to be like the side bet commissioner, or, quote unquote, just be in charge of the side bets for me, like, please. Like, I do a lot of things during the fantasy season, so one less thing. Not that it's a lot of work, it's really not, but I can just, it can be mental exhaustion of, doing all the things I do for the fantasy season. So I asked Brian if he wants to be in charge of next year. He's more than welcome to, so we'll see. Otherwise, if someone else wants to be in charge of the side bets from the Hidden Oaks Redraft League, let me know, dude. You have to do like one calculation a week, send out one text message, say who won, and then say what the next side bet is. And it's really that simple, because I think at a certain point people just ignore my messages or heavily screen my messages. So if it came from a Brian or someone else, then maybe there'd be a little bit more investment there. But other than that, I think another person talks about game against the median. I think that's what they're saying. So yeah, we'll bring it back up in the offseason. We've had 2 seasons now with it, and we'll see what the people think. It's going to be hard to get 14 teams to all row in the same direction, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. It would have come out in the survey probably, Josh, but maybe you've had some more thoughts since then. This will kind of be the last thing, and then we'll get out of here for the podcast season. Thinking about both the podcast and fantasy, do you have any ideas for next year? I think one piece of feedback we got, because we didn't really solicit a lot of podcast feedback this year, was freshen up the Saturday shows, which I'm open to hearing. I think the Saturday show was exactly the same from last year to this year. I don't think we changed it at all. So just doing something, whether we change up how we do start sits, or we make it more interactive or something, just to make the Saturday show more fun. There's something there. And otherwise for fantasy, I've had some fun ideas. I linked a Reddit post here. I don't know if you looked at it or not, but there's some cool ideas in there about how to spice up some fantasy stuff. But what about you? Have you come across anything, or have any thoughts right now that we should capture before we lose everything? Because it's a long 6 months until next year.
No, I don't have anything right now. So my brain right now is just mainly like, oh, fantasy's over.
Sure, sigh relief.
I think that letting it mull over maybe in the off season sometime, probably around draft time, is when I'll start thinking about things a little bit more, like the NFL draft in April.
Sure. Okay, yeah, I mean, it's definitely not something you need to answer right now. Obviously, we have plenty of time, but it's always nice to get down, if ideas are fresh, to get them down right now. Like, one of the things, I know I've tried a couple years, but to do something with the matchups, like, I feel like because we're a 14-person league and there's 14 regular season weeks, you take 13 weeks, play everyone once, since we don't do like divisions or anything, and then the last week you should be able to do something fun. I'm thinking, and obviously we'll put it up to the group, because this group does not like when I make unilateral decisions, which I understand why, but I'm thinking that maybe we'll let, whether it's the champion, so I guess no, I won't do it for the champion this year because I'll get called out, but maybe it's like in the draft lottery, the person who gets their ball picked last or whatever, they get to set the matchups. So we do something fun with like the week 1 matchups. Like, one of the things I read online is that in week 1 there's always a championship rematch, so that'd be me and Willie going against it week 1. I think that'd be just a fun little, it's 1 week, a nice little spice, and then try and find something else fun to do for like the first week of the fantasy season. Just spice up the matchup slightly, like let someone pick them, or let's be some influence there. I think that'd be fun. You'd have to pick all that pre-draft, obviously, but just to add to a little bit of spice, a little bit of engagement. I think there's something there, but we'll talk about it later in the off season. Anything else you want to say to the people, Josh? I assume we'll do our normal podcast break, unless you're really itching to talk about the playoffs or anything. I assume we'll take a break until the draft in April. I think that's what we've done the last couple of years. Maybe we do a free agency one as well. So at least until March. Maybe you won't hear from us until April. But anything else you want to say to the folks? Anything you want the people to hear come out of your silky voice until then?
Go Packers.
All right. Well, with nothing else. Ooh, that was a big breath.
Go Packers.
You teased me for a second. Go Packers, dude. Unbelievable. All right.
Go Packers.
Shut the fuck. All right. Now he left. Okay. Get him the heck out of here. Well, I'll just say, now that Josh is gone and I can talk uninterrupted, I appreciate everyone so much for listening. I know this year we haven't solicited a lot of feedback. We haven't pushed for a lot of engagement. It is what it is. I think sometimes some of the fans can get burnt out. I tried to not do weekly pings every week. I think people who are going to listen to the podcast generally are going to listen or already subscribe on Spotify, so they know when it's up. So I avoided at least the twice weekly Discord pings. Walters or Al or Brian or Nikita or anyone else who listens. Eric, I think you sneak in there still sometimes. Mika or Eric's too. If anyone's got feedback for the podcast, let us know. We're always open to new ideas. We kind of like to do our own thing at this point, but if there's anything we could at least consider to make the listening experience better for you, please let us know, because while we do this as a hobby for ourselves and we do this for our own personal enjoyment, if there's something easy enough to do or a new idea we haven't considered that could make the podcast experience better for you as well, we're open to it. That's not a promise we're going to do it, but I would love to hear any and all ideas if they are out there. And again, we appreciate you so much for listening. We appreciate everyone who participates in the Discord. I know the Discord will still be moving as we move out through the playoffs, and then before you know it, we'll be in free agency and draft season, and football is a year-round thing now. So we love you guys. I love you guys. And yeah, we will be talking soon enough. I think I'll try and do a playoff bracket challenge like I do every year. There's Al already posted about Uncle Dean's playoff contest in the Discord, so if you'd like to participate in that, I know I'm going to be. You pick against the spread every week. That's fun. I think it's $20 to enter. I'm not sure. All the info is in the Discord. And then my bracket challenge is always $10 to enter, and you pick the whole bracket beforehand. But the website I usually lose, the guy hasn't updated yet, so I'll have to find a new interactive bracket that people can easily send me. So if anyone out there sees an interactive bracket, let me know. So I can use that for my contest. Otherwise, maybe I won't have it, but we'll figure something out. Anyways, I'm rambling at this point. One last time, I love you so much. Thank you, everyone, so much for listening. We will be back soon enough for Season 7, and we love you. Goodbye.
What's poppin', man? It's Audio Al, and you're listening to Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix, right here on YouTube, Spotify, or any of your favorite streaming apps.
This is Brian from the soon-to-be champion Skybusters, and you are listening to Josh and Gar on the Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix on Spotify.
This is Carmel Bear, and you're listening to the Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix.
This is the former and 5-time World Madden champ, Jordan 13-8, and you're listening to the Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix.
Hey guys, this is T, and you're listening to the Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix with Gar and Josh. Enjoy the show. And remember, stonks do go up.
I'm Ryan Walters, that other podcast host that you hate the most, and you're listening to the Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix.
Boom it! Show me the fire!
I know. I know yelling.
Is your throat okay? Would you just have a frog in there?
Mm-hmm.